I will tell you this directly. Every opportunity you have ever held in your hands already contained the potential for success. In another version of reality, you simply knew how to access it. In the next few minutes, I will share with you a mental practice that has helped more people transform their lives than any business strategy, investment plan, or lucky coincidence in history. Listen carefully. What you are about to hear challenges everything you thought you knew about manifestation, desire, and the nature of reality. What the world calls chance is actually a mirror reflecting the state of your consciousness. Most people approach life from the wrong angle. They hope, they wait, they look outward, expecting external forces to finally favor them. But I am here to tell you something that will change your understanding forever. You succeed when you enter the state of consciousness of someone who already succeeded. And I will show you how to remain in that state consistently, not occasionally. Every great achievement, every breakthrough, every so-called miracle began in the same place. In the imagination of a person who dared to feel that they already possessed what they desired. But before we continue, I must warn you, what you are about to learn requires letting go of old ideas about cause and effect. The world teaches that you must work hard, struggle, push, and maybe, with enough luck, you will succeed. But what if success is not something you achieve, but something you accept? Consciousness is the only true reality. Everything else, your circumstances, your opportunities, your environment, are merely shadows cast by the light of your inner state. Once you truly understand this, you will never see life the same way again. I have seen people transform their lives overnight, not because of external changes, but because of a shift in their inner identity. I have seen individuals who could barely make ends meet rise to abundance within months, not through force or luck, but through the very principle I am sharing with you now. But in one evening, I taught her what I am teaching you now. 3 weeks later, she called me in tears, overwhelmed. Her life had transformed dramatically, and the most surprising part? She wasn't surprised. She said, "I've been living as my future self in my imagination for weeks. This is simply the natural result. What Margaret did to create her breakthrough is exactly what I will teach you. But be warned, this technique is so powerful that once you use it sincerely, you will never be the same person again. Remember, every possible version of your life already exists in the infinite field of possibilities. Every path, every outcome, every transformation is already there, waiting. The question is not what will happen, but which version of you will show up to experience it. Most people fail because they try to predict the future instead of choosing it. They try to change the external instead of shifting the internal. But you will do something entirely different. Tonight, as you fall asleep, you will do something that may seem illogical to your rational mind, but completely natural to your inner being. You will not hope, wish, or try. You will assume that you have already become the version of yourself who succeeded. If this message reached you, know this, it is not a coincidence. Write in the comments, "I am already transformed." If you truly intend to apply this technique tonight, remember, these are not just words. They are the seal of your new reality. But there is one crucial detail that most people ignore. You must treat your desired state as a completed fact, not a possibility. You must feel that the transformation already belongs to you. You must experience your new life so vividly that your nervous system cannot distinguish imagination from reality. And here is what will surprise you. The version of life you accept as already yours will be the one that manifests. Let me explain. The subconscious, this vast creative force, thinks in images, not abstractions. It does not understand a lot of money or enough to live on. It responds to clear, vivid details infused with the feeling of abundance. One of my students, David, came to me wanting to transform his financial reality. I asked him, "What exactly do you want?" He said, "I don't know, just enough to cover my bills." 6 months later, he was still struggling. Then I gave him the same technique I am giving you now. I said, "David, tonight before sleep, imagine that you already possess a specific amount. Not a lot, not someday, but a precise number. Feel the weight of the document in your hands. Feel the texture of the paper. Live in the sensation of already having exactly that amount." 3 months later, David called me with news that would make any skeptic question their worldview. His financial situation shifted dramatically, and the amount he received was astonishingly close to the one he had imagined. But the most surprising part was his reaction. He said, "I've been living with this abundance in my imagination for weeks. This just feels like the letter finally arrived." This is how the power of assumption works when applied correctly. You do not attract what you desire. You become the version of yourself who already has it. And who you become is shaped not by circumstances, but by your inner identity. There's a special way to formulate assumptions that multiplies their power. Most people get this wrong, which is why their attempts fail. The key is not what you imagine, but how you imagine it. You must create a scene that implies your desire is already fulfilled, a scene that could only happen if your transformation were already complete. Do not imagine the process. Do not imagine the effort. Do not imagine the moment of change. Imagine the after. Imagine yourself in a bank, not as someone asking for help, but as someone who is already financially secure. Perhaps you're making a generous donation. Feel the respect in the employee's voice when they ask. From your main account or one of your investment accounts? Feel how natural it is for you. What once felt enormous now feels effortless. Or imagine calling a family member to tell them you are helping them with something meaningful, not as a grand gesture, but as a natural expression of your abundance. Hear their joy. Feel the satisfaction of being able to give without limiting yourself. Your scene can be anything, but it must contain 3 essential elements. Miss even one, and the assumption loses its power. 1. The scene must be short and simple. No long fantasies. One clear moment, no longer than a minute. 2. The scene must imply that time has passed since your transformation. This bypasses logical resistance. 3. You must see the scene from the first-person perspective with such vividness that your body reacts as if it were real. This is where most people fail. Even when they perform the technique correctly, they imagine the scene once or twice and then return to their old state. The state of wanting, waiting, trying. This creates inner conflict that destroys the result. You must learn to live from a state of the fulfilled desire, not strive toward it. This means that in daily life, when you think about money, you think as someone who is already abundant. When you make decisions, you act from abundance. When you face challenges, you respond as someone with unlimited resources. This is not pretending. This is not fake it till you make it. This is recognizing that the version of you who already lives in abundance exists right now in another layer of reality, and you're simply aligning your consciousness with that version. Let me tell you about Susan, who understood this principle so deeply that her life began shifting almost immediately. Susan learned to live each day with the inner feeling that she was already secure. She didn't drastically change her lifestyle. She continued working, continued paying bills, but inside she felt like a wealthy woman temporarily playing the role of someone with limited means. Within 2 months, she began receiving small but meaningful signs of alignment. Unexpected refunds, bonuses, opportunities, gifts. Each one strengthened her confidence. In 8 months after beginning the practice, her financial reality transformed completely. But Susan's story reveals an important detail that may influence your own success. She didn't receive the major breakthrough immediately because her subconscious wasn't fully convinced yet. Here is how to accelerate the process. When you assume that you are already abundant, when you live in the state of the fulfilled desire, you activate what I call the bridge of events, a chain of circumstances that must unfold for your assumption to become physical reality. These events often appear as coincidences, lucky moments, or unexpected opportunities, but they are not random. They are the natural result of your new state of consciousness, which attracts the people, situations, and circumstances needed to bring your assumption into physical form. Understanding this bridge of events is crucial because many people destroy their manifestations right when they are closest to the result. Here is what you must pay attention to. You may suddenly feel a strong impulse to go somewhere, speak to someone, or take a specific action at a specific moment. You may have a vivid dream that feels meaningful. You may overhear a conversation that seems to guide you. This is not coincidence. This is your deeper self, following your assumption and arranging the path towards fulfillment. The key is to follow these impulses without overthinking. Do not doubt, do not analyze. Your conscious mind cannot see the full picture that your subconscious perceives. Simply trust. There is one mistake that 90% of people make at this stage, and it completely collapses their manifestation. I faced it myself when I first studied these principles. The mistake is this. They begin to doubt after the bridge of events has already begun forming. They think, this is too good to be true. I'm imagining things. This can't work. Such doubt creates the opposite assumption, which cancels all previous inner work. Remember, your assumption shapes your reality. When signs of your new reality begin to appear, do not analyze them. Celebrate them. Every small manifestation is confirmation that your assumption is becoming fact. Now we must address the question that prevents most people from succeeding with this method. Time. How long must you hold your assumption before it manifests? The answer may surprise you. Time, as you know it, does not exist in consciousness. In the imaginal world where your assumptions live, your desired outcome already exists. The time required for it to appear here depends only on the strength and stability of your inner state. I have seen people transform their lives within days of beginning the practice, and I have seen others struggle for months because they could not hold their assumption consistently. The variable is not external circumstances. The variable is the power of your inner certainty. The secret is to accept your desire so fully and naturally that you forget you're trying to manifest anything. When your assumption becomes your normal state, when abundance feels more real than lack, manifestation happens instantly. This is why I always tell my students, continue until your assumption becomes fact. Do not set deadlines. Do not watch the calendar. Simply maintain your new state of consciousness as your constant state, and watch how the outer world begins to rearrange itself around it. Let me tell you about Robert, whose persistence in the face of complete hopelessness led to one of the most remarkable transformations I have ever witnessed. Robert came to me after losing his job, facing the loss of his home, and feeling utterly defeated. He had tried every success method, every manifestation technique, every positive thinking program. Nothing worked. I taught him the technique of assumption exactly as I'm teaching you. For 6 months, nothing happened. His external situation even worsened before it began to shift. But Robert understood the principle I'm giving you now. Manifestation often looks like collapse before it becomes breakthrough. The night before his home was scheduled to be taken from him, Robert called me and said, "I know it sounds insane, but I still feel wealthy inside. Even though I'm about to lose everything, I can't shake the feeling that I am abundant. It's like I'm living in two realities at once. I told him, Robert, that inner feeling is your true reality. Everything you see around you is just the fading echo of your old state. You're simply witnessing the last remnants of your previous consciousness. The new one already exists. It has already become real. It just hasn't appeared outwardly yet. The next morning, Robert acted not from fear, but from the calm certainty of someone who already lives in abundance. That same week, his life shifted dramatically. A new opportunity appeared, a financial door opened, and within days he received the exact resources he needed to rebuild his life completely. But the most extraordinary part of his story was not the transformation itself. It was his reaction when I congratulated him. He said, "It doesn't feel like something happened to me. It feels like reality finally aligned with who I have been on the inside all this time. I lived as an abundant man for so long that this feels like the natural next step." This is how the power of assumption works when applied correctly. You do not attract abundance, you recognize it. You do not create prosperity, you allow it to appear. You do not chase success, you align with the version of yourself who already embodies it. Now I want to share with you a practice that will transform your relationship with money and make abundance not just possible, but inevitable. Every evening, as you fall asleep, imagine a scene, a specific moment in which you have already become the person you aspire to be, and some time has passed since that transformation. Live inside this scene, feel yourself within it. Accept it as fact, but there is an important condition. Do not do this only once. Repeat the scene again and again until you drift into sleep. Let it be the final image your mind sees before resting. Your subconscious is especially receptive in this transitional state between wakefulness and sleep. When you wake up in the morning, before opening your eyes or thinking about the day ahead, return to your scene. Live it again. Feel the reality of your abundance. Then, throughout the day, revisit this feeling from time to time. Not necessarily the scene itself, but the inner state of someone who already embodies the life they desire. When you pay bills, feel yourself as someone who handles small amounts while having vast resources behind you. When you go to work, feel like a person who works by choice, not necessity. When challenges arise, respond as someone with inner stability and confidence. As your assumption begins to solidify into fact, you will notice certain signs that your manifestation is approaching. These signals matter. They strengthen your certainty and confirm that the process is unfolding. First, your relationship with money will change. Instead of anxiety or longing, you will feel calm confidence about your financial future. Money will stop being an emotional trigger and become a neutral tool. Second, you may begin having dreams or meaningful coincidences related to abundance. You may dream of banks, large sums, or conversations about prosperity. You may notice repeating numbers or find unexpected financial opportunities. Third, and most importantly, you will stop wondering how or when your manifestation will appear. You will no longer obsessively check outcomes or analyze possibilities. A deep inner peace will arise because you will know your good is already on its way. When you reach this state of certainty, manifestation becomes not just possible, it becomes inevitable. This leads to the final principle that unites everything we've discussed. The key that unlocks unlimited abundance is understanding that everything said about transforming your financial reality applies to every area of life. This principle is universal. Consciousness is the only reality. Your assumptions shape your experience. Your imagination, when directed correctly, becomes your world. And this is what makes this approach so powerful. When you succeed using these principles, you gain more than material results. You gain a consciousness of abundance. And that state continues to create prosperity again and again. Students who truly master this method don't experience a single breakthrough. They become ongoing sources of growth and success. They understand the secret of shaping consciousness. They realize they're not victims of circumstances, but creators of their reality. They understand that abundance is not an external goal, but an inner nature waiting to be expressed. When you truly understand that your imagination is the creative power of the divine working through you, you will never feel powerless again. You will stop depending on external conditions. You will know that anything you can accept as true about yourself will inevitably become true in your experience. This is an invitation to join those who have discovered this secret. But I must warn you, this knowledge requires responsibility. Once you see that consciousness creates reality, once you witness imagination becoming fact, you will no longer be able to blame external circumstances. You will have to take responsibility for every area of your life: relationships, health, finances, happiness. All of it will become a reflection of your own consciousness. But for those brave enough to accept this responsibility, the reward is immense. You become the author of your destiny. You create your life according to your highest vision. You experience the joy of conscious creation, a partnership with the infinite power that shaped the universe. Tonight, as you fall asleep, you stand at crossroads. You can continue living as before, hoping that external forces will someday favor you. Or you can begin living from the assumption that you already are who you want to be. This choice is yours. But remember, you are not choosing only for tonight. You are choosing the direction of your entire future. Choose consciously. Choose boldly. Choose the fulfillment of your desire. And tomorrow, begin living as the abundant person you have always been in the infinite realm of consciousness.